Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trilokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidyat Raminam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. So where are we in our text?
Chapter 4, number 48.
So the topic that we've been discussing, remember the overall point of this chapter is to see the self in and through all the phenomenal world. What is this world and how has it come about? So we've had these two layers of Sankalpa. So the first he's talked about is Ishvara. Ishvara dreams this world of name and form. And for us, it is inherently neutral. It just is. Then there's my egoistic sankalpa, which then superimposes on it good and bad, right and wrong, pleasure and suffering, virtue and vice, desirable, undesirable. And that's my projection. And freedom comes from being able to, first of all, see that it's my projection and endeavoring to let it go, at least to quit believing in it as a reality. Oh, that person is evil and that's the truth. No, they're simply harm. I superimpose my ideas on it. Any thoughts on this? All right, next verse.
Was it verse 48?
Ask Mark. I can't remember that long.
Yes, 48.
Tame vaikam vijanitha anya vacho vimunchatha yachedang manasi pragnya ityadhya shrutaya sputaha. It has been clearly told in the Shruti, quote, know that one and give up other talks, end quote, and quote, a man should restrain his speech and keep it within his mind, end quote.
So the idea here is same idea that we were talking about in Viveka Chudamani on Thursday, when we were talking about Shamadhi Guna. We began to discuss Shama, Dhamma, and Uparati. So keeping the mind and here the speech is well restrained. Keeping all the sense organs residing in the sense centers. And whatever data comes to us from the world, letting it pass through, be empty. Have a mind like a sieve, just let it all pass. Next verse.
Ashastriyam pidvaitam tivram mandamiti dvidha kamakrodhadikam tivram manorajyam tathet rata. The duality of the mental creation of man, which is not in conformity with the scripture, is of two kinds, violent and dull. That which gives rise to lust, anger, and other passions is called violent, and that which gives rise to daydreams is called dull.
Yes. So we have two different ways in which we project things. First, the violence. Violence is when I'm not getting what I want. Remember yoga's definition of anger: thwarted desire, unmet expectation. I don't have what I want, makes me angry. Then what I want to do, I get violent in trying to achieve it. Or I have what I want and it's slipping through my fingers. And what do? I get violent, try to get it back. We can go through all sorts of worldly examples. The daydreaming is when in my mind, oh, if only. I think the classic example is the person who's sitting on the bar stool in the bar, having all these fantasies about these great things that they're going to accomplish. And they never do. It's just dull. Or even more insidious, when I can't even see what's there. Someone sends a text and it's all capital letters, and we think they're yelling at us. Well, I just did a text in capital letters. I superimpose. Delusion. So there's all sorts of practical things with this teaching, this practice of endeavoring to have as quiet a mind as possible. A quiet mind is the most insightful mind. It's the most perceptive mind. I was talking with a friend of mine this past week who's I guess they call it an architect in the computer programming world. Is that right? And he was talking about in software engineering, it's not really about logic in the end. There's a creative element to it where you have an insight into how to solve a problem. Then comes writing the code to try to get the computer to do what you had the insight about. Did I explain that right?
Mhm.
But it's the quiet mind that can have those inspired visions and thoughts. We're far more efficient when the mind is quiet. We're but far more capable of conflict resolution. Deepa was talking last night about things that she's learned at Salesforce and being a manager and how to work with people, how to dial down agitation, solution oriented, deal with that. All of that becomes available to the yogi with mature vairagya. Being able to not be reactive to the stuff that's coming to us. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Ubhayam tattvabodhat prang varyam bodha asiddhyate shama samahitatvam cha sadhaneshu shrutam yatah. Before starting the study into the nature of Brahman, it is necessary to give up both. For mental poise and concentration are the two prerequisites for the study of Brahman, so says the Shruti.
So we need to give up these agitations of the mind, the projections of the mind. That peaceful shama, that peaceful state of mind when it rests in steady contemplation of the goal after having again and again detached itself from the chaos of the sense objects to a steady observation of their defects. It's not out there. And the yogi lives by this axiom. If I'm disturbed, no matter the cause, I'm the one with the klesha, the affliction. I'm the one with the dosha, the defect. I'm the one with the adhyasa, the superimposition. I'm the one with the sangraha, the attachment. Now, mind you, I'm not saying, does that mean they're right and I'm wrong all the time? No. The world and its people are oftentimes quite wrong. The world and its people behave in all sorts of ways. But nobody has the power to make me feel anything. I, as an ego, react. So, if I can really internalize that, then I have the purushartha, the personal power to do something about it. And if I have this shamatva, guess you could call it that, capacity of shama, shamatha.
Yeah, Shamatha.
Shamatha. Then I would have a far better instrument for self-inquiry. I think the Buddhists use that word, don't they?
I was just thinking about that.
All right, next verse.
bodhat bodhat durvam chatad dheyam जीवन मुक्ति प्रसिद्धये कामा दिल कामा दिक्ले शब्देन युक्तस्य न हि मुक्तता. In order to achieve and to be established in the state of liberation, these two must be given up. One who is subject to the urges of lust and other passions is unfit for liberation in life.
So, drawing on what Shankara says, the first two qualifications, Viveka, Brahmasatyam, Jaganmithya, firm conviction in the intellect that Brahman alone is real. The phenomenal world is mithya. It's known as discrimination between the real and the unreal, which leads to vairagya, that desire, meaning we don't achieve it overnight, to give up attachment to all experiences. Shankara uses the word bhokta, enjoyment, but it means experience, it means both good stuff and bad stuff. Gain through the senses and giving up any identification with any form of self, starting with the body up to and including the form of Brahma, meaning I'm a powerful person. This is what Vidyaranya is talking about. These are the qualities, the qualifications of a fit student, adhikari. The precondition. And I love the way, again, Shankara frames it in Viveka Chudamani. Success in spiritual endeavors is entirely due to the degree of the qualifications of a fit student. Other factors, such as time and place, while important, are fundamentally secondary. This is what we are to do. Mature vairagya. How do I achieve it? Pay attention. What does it feel like to want something I don't have? It sucks. Fool thinks the solution is get what I want, get what I want. And yoga says, how's that working out for you? If you're honest, it's at best temporary. You hear me say 95 cents worth of work for a nickel's worth of pleasure. Then watch our minds. Own your ananda. When desire and object of desire become one, the ananda is not in the object. It's what I've done to my mind. I have momentarily freed it from the tyranny of craving. The dude with the hammer. Bang, 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 bang. Bang, 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 bang. Why are you hitting yourself on the head with a hammer? Because it feels so good when I stop. I want this. I want that. Gimme, 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 gimme. More, 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 more. I got something. It's all that happens. It's crazy. What we do. Next verse.
Jivan muktir riyam mam bhut janma bhave tvaham kriti tarhi janmapi te satveva sarva swargamatrat kriti bhavan. You may say, let there be no liberation in life. I am satisfied if there is no birth anymore. We reply, then if the desires remain, you will have births also. So be satisfied with heaven only.
So, this is a very important point. To be really free, we have to also understand what is the cause for reincarnation. Now, we can say what is the cause for re-identification. We do not have to believe in the doctrine of reincarnation. It's not necessary. But here the doubt is, okay, let me just live a comparatively good life, getting what I want, and I'll do puja, or I'll say the rosary, I'll get baptized, I'll go to confession, whatever you think ritual will do it. And then after I die, I'll be liberated. Videha moksha. Vidyaranya says, doesn't work that way. Because when you die and the body falls off, only the grosser part of the mind falls off. The subtle body is still there with its vasanas till they are eradicated. That will impel us back into another body, because the body is essentially an instrument to garner experience. The body is a vehicle for the experience of pleasure. That's why we have one. See? And there are some people who have a state where they don't have too many desires. They've done pretty well with that, but they've got a whole lot of aversions. They wouldn't even call it aversions. They just say everything annoys me. Politics annoy me, my parents annoy me, my girlfriend or boyfriend annoys me, the economy annoys me. I can't wait till I die. I hope I'm liberated so I don't have to come back and do this mess again. It's not an uncommon state. What Vidyaranya is saying is, that's not going to give you freedom. You must be free from both raga and dvesha, attachment and aversion. So, I invite us to take on what I call the vampire Lestat meditation. If you've never read Interview with a Vampire, the Anne Rice books, so there's a character, the vampire Lestat. He can't die. He can get all chopped up and comes back. So he's stuck in a body forever. So what if you were going to be in the body forever? Not this one like it. How are you going to live? Well, first of all, quit taking it so damn seriously. There you start. So the person who's free not only is completely detached from this world, but he's also given it up his aversions to this world. This is it. Right here, right now, way it is. Long as there's still some ambition and the subtle ambition, oh, I want a higher spiritual state, or oh, I don't want to ever have to come back and be in a body again, or I don't ever want to die, I want to stay in the body forever. All these subtle ideas that we can get. And the one who's free is the one for whom all strivings cease. Now, we strive very hard to reach a state where we don't strive anymore. It's paradoxical. This is not just having what I call, pardon my expression, the fuckets. That's not freedom. Fuck it. Doesn't matter what I do. I will just go shoot heroin. That's not freedom. So we are a mumukshu. But if you've been practicing for a while, at least for moments in your day, practice letting everything go. This is it. Next verse. Reply.
Shayati shayadoshena swargo heyo yada tada swayam dosha tayat mayam kamadi kim nahiyate. If you say that the pleasures of heaven are defective, having waning and gradation, and so are to be renounced, then why don't you give up the source of all evils, the passions?
So again, Swarga. Then we have jealous gods. You know, your Swarga is better than my Swarga. True story. True story. So I was talking with a friend. We have a mutual friend who has a lovely, lovely home in the Oakland Hills. It's probably 2 or 3 bedrooms, lovely garden, stuff like that. But then he heard about another friend of ours, and he and his partner just bought a house higher up in the hills for 1.8 million. All of a sudden, my house isn't fancy enough. I want a house like Hobbit. So the yogi wants to practice santosha, contentment. Why settle for trinkets and baubles when you're going to have something really? That's what Vidyaranya is saying. Next one.
Tattvam buddhapi kamadin शेषं न जहासि चेत् यथेष्टा चरणं ते स्यात् कर्मशास्त्राति लङ्घनः. If cherishing the false idea that you have attained liberation, you do not completely give up these passions, you transgress the laws of the scriptures and are self-willed.
So I think the import of this one is some people think they've attained some high state, but if the heart is still driven by passion, and if you think you're an enlightened person, and you use this as a way to rationalize bad behavior, God knows all of us have heard about spiritual teachers who've done this. It's foolishness. Not only deluding yourself, but you're probably doing damage to other people. Don't try to be a spiritual person. Don't try to be a guru. No, you are Brahman. Let the Lord take care of what he wants to do with your body. Very important point. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
बुद्धाद्वैत स्वतत्त्वस्य यथेष्टाचरणं यदि शुना तत्त्वदशां चैव को भेदो शुचिभक्षणे. Sri Sureshwara says that one who pretends to be a knower of Brahman and yet lives without moral restraint is like a dog that eats unclean things.
So again, and some of this can be our own self-denial. We think we're in some sort of state that we're not. Or there are people who just are charlatans. It's a way to make a buck. But the clear indication, and again, we're not, this teaching is not for us to judge other people. They're in God's hands. It's for ourselves. Does my mind still extroverted to me? If so, don't worry about it. Just don't fool ourselves. Make sure you don't get caught up in trying to be a spiritual goody goody. Oh my God, Jim, I'm so extroverted. I need to stop that. I need to keep all this a secret. You're still caught up in ignorance. Power of avasanas that robs us of self-experience. Remember who you are. Any thoughts on this? There's a marvelous book that was written in the early 70s called Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism. by Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. I'm actually reading through that with another person. It's a lovely book. But this is Trungpa's basic idea. We don't want to make the path itself another possession. And you can tell when you're in public with other people, are you presenting all that you've learned and studied as part of your credentials? Do you get caught up in yoga data wars with other people, trying to convince them of something and fighting with them about this? Practice maunam can be useful. Now, if it's given you to have the job as a Dharma holder to teach, that will become clear. Make sure that you don't identify. Teacher. Next verse.
बोधात् पुरा मनोदोषं मात्रात् क्लेशास्य थाधुना अशेषलोकनिन्दा चेत् यहोते बोधवैभवम्. Before knowledge, you suffered only from the pain of your own mental imperfections. But now you suffer the censure of the world as well. How glorious is the effect of your knowledge.
So he's saying, for that person who's caught in that delusion, you not only suffer from your own mental problems, but now you also get the slings and arrows of everybody else condemning you, calling you a hypocrite, a phony. Any thoughts on this? Now, why does Vidyaranya talk about this? Because this enlightenment sickness, this identification with having had some kind of an experience, is a pitfall. It's a pitfall. Next one.
Vidvarahalitulyatvam Makangshi statva vidbhavan sarvati dhido ksasatyagat lokai pujasva devavat. Oh, knower of truth, do not sink to the level of pigs in the sty. Freeing yourself from all the defects arising from your mind, be worshipped by the world like a god.
Well, I'm not sure I want to be worshipped like a god, but you will do more work, be more useful to the Lord to the degree that you have freed yourself from the stinking vasanas, as Swamiji used to call them. Next one.
Kamyadi dosha drishtyaadhya kamadityaga hevatah prasiddho moksha shastreshu tananninvashya sukhi bhava. The scriptures dealing with liberation proclaim that these urges of passion can be overcome by constantly thinking over the fettering nature of the objects of desire. Adopt these means, conquer the passions, and be happy.
The fettering natures. A fetter is something that binds us. It's like handcuffs or shackles. So again, as Shankara has said in his definition of shama, at peaceful state of mind with at rest and steady contemplation of the goal, after having again and again turned itself away from the chaos of the sense objects through a steady observation of their defects. Think the scenario through. Understand the pleasure principle. What does it feel like to want something I don't have? That is my suffering. Ignorance says, more, better, different, gimme, gimme, gimme. Yoga says, drop it. Make friends with your suffering. Make friends with your ananda. Watch the mind. It will become so clear. And if you pay attention, then naturally the desire to be free from desire will arise, which is Muchulavayana. Any thoughts on this? Next one.
यज्यतामेव कामादि मनोराज्ये तु काक्षतिः अशेददोषबीजत्वात् क्षतिर्भगवतेरिता. Objection. All right. Let defects such as the impact of passions be removed, but what is the harm in letting the imagination play on the objects of desire? Reply. Such mental preoccupation with the objects of desire is the very seed of all evils, so says Lord Sri Krishna.
So, what you look at, you're going to think about. What you look at repeatedly, meaning what you imagine or put your attention on, you're going to think about repeatedly. Repeated thought becomes habituated thought. That sinks into the unconscious, becomes the law of my life, and then will impel me into action. At that point, restraint is almost impossible. So Shankara uses this wonderful image of a child playing with a rubber ball in a temple that's got steps coming down. The ball gets away and it bounces on the top step, and he's able to grab it. He's got the ball. But if he's not fast enough, it's the first step and then the next step. They jump, all the way to the bottom. So he says here, don't think your fantasy life is unimportant and immaterial. Case in point, okay, no, I don't want to cheat on my wife, but I sure think about it all the time. You better be careful. But if you think about it all the time, in some way, you're going to act out on that. So here, Vidyaranya is saying, nope, turn the mind back towards the goal. Shankara also uses the metaphor. There's a state where our vasanas are all dried up like a dead looking citrus tree. It's dead, it's never going to bear fruit again. But if I water it with imagination, there's the fruit all over again. Be vigilant. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः संगतेषुपजायते संगात् संजायते कामात् क्रोधोऽभिजायते. If a man dwells mentally on any object of desire, he will become attached to it. Attachment gives rise to a longing for it, and the frustration of desire leads to anger.
So he said essentially the same thing. If you dwell on the thought of the object of desire, attachment will arise. Then you're going to want to go act on it. Inevitable result will be anger. Kama, karma, krodha. Desire, action. And anger, krodha can be minor, it can be just annoyance, a low-level dissatisfaction, irritation. But you're not at peace. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः सम्मोहात् स्मृतिविभ्रमः स्मृतिभ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशो बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति. From anger comes delusion, and from delusion loss of memory. From loss of memory comes the ruin of discrimination, and from the ruin of discrimination the man perishes.
That's virtually a direct quote from Gita. So this is the fall of man, the fall of the human being. From my anger comes delusion. From delusion, loss of discrimination. Here, it's not just discrimination between the self and the not-self. I can't even discriminate what's right behavior, what's right action, who are my friends, who are, non-conducive. Start hanging out with lower companions. Oh, I don't drink so badly. Everybody I hang out drinks like that. Isn't everybody doing crystal meth now? Doesn't everybody steal a little bit? All of our rationalizations. Oh, I can steal from the department store. It's a big company. They rip people off anyway. Delusion. Delusion. All right, next verse.
शक्यं जेतुं मनोराज्यं निर्विकल्प समाधितः सुसम्पाद क्रमात् सोऽपि सविकल्प समाधिना. This tendency of thinking on objects may be overcome by meditation on the attributeless Brahman. This can gradually be done at ease by first meditating on Ishvara.
So he's used actually these terms nirvikalpa and savikalpa. And the translator has said meditating on the partless Brahman and then Ishvara.
Mhm.
So, what basically we're talking about, I would translate it a little bit different. So, when the mind can turn within, and when thoughts arise, you don't believe them, you don't let them go. Drown the mind in Brahman. Soak the mind in the sound. In the beginning, we're in the savikalpa state, where there's still a glimmer of the individual and the phenomenal. And all that is gone completely. We enter into the near. Once again, I got a call from a former student, haven't worked with in some time, lives in San Diego, basically a Zen Buddhist. But we've worked together, and he'd been doing intense practice. And he was just sitting out in his backyard. And he said, I've been doing such, intense practice. I just can't do it anymore. I'm going to let it go. His last desire, didn't even know it. Mind just exploded. He was talking about this pain in one side of his head, moved to the other, and then it dropped. It was hard, and it exploded, and the person disappeared. Calls me up, and he's laughing, and he's crying, and it's real. It's really real, Jim. It's so cool. It's real. It doesn't happen like that for everyone. We've talked about this in other classes. You can't make nirvikalpa another object desire. That's futile. Do you know who you are? Keep dropping. Some people, it's just a shift. For others, it's a big bawanga. That's God's grace. Any thoughts on this? How do I know if I've had nirvikalpa? It is absolutely self-validating. The mark of nirvikalpa is it swallows all doubt. Krishna himself could come up and say, you know who you are, you got more work to do. Say, thank you, Lord. Next verse.
बुद्धतत्त्वेन धीतोष शून्येनैकान्तवासिना दीर्घं प्रणवमुच्चार्य मनोराज्यं विजीयते. One who has understood intellectually the nature of the secondless Brahman and who is free from the defects of intellect should live in solitude over a long period, practice the japa of Om, and thus control the vagaries of the mind.
So, for most of us, we may need to go through a period where we have some withdrawal from the world. First comes indirect knowledge, the paroksha jnana, learning the truth intellectually from the scripture and from the teacher, being convinced of it by our own reasoning. Long, continuous meditation. Remember, when you chant any mantra, here he's used Om. Om has 4 quarters, A-U-M, and silence. So when we chant Om or any other mantra, always surround silence. Om Shivaya. Om Shivaya. Don't forget that 4th quarter. Never let your japa be mechanical. Not serve you at the end. Any thoughts on this? And that's for any meditative practice, whether you're being with your breath or whatever it is. If the mind comes to a stillness, let it be still. And if the mind starts up again, take up the practice again. Next verse.
Jite tasmin vrittishunyam manasthishthashti mukhavat etat padam vasishthena ramaya pabudheritam. When the mental world is thus conquered, other modifications of the mind gradually cease. The mind keeps mum like a dumb person. This method was variously explained by Vasishtha to Rama.
Yes. So here he's quoting Yoga Vasishtha. Let the mind keep mum. It's not about figuring stuff out. I like to call it practicing unknowing. You don't want to be an ignoramus, you want to be an agnoramus. Agnosia. Unknown. Next verse.
Drishyam nastiti bodhena manaso drisyamarjanam sampannam chetaduppanna paranirvana nirvriti. With the direct knowledge of the unsubstantiality of the phenomenal world arises the profound bliss of nirvana.
With the direct knowledge of the unsubstantiality of the phenomenal world. So frequently we say, with the direct knowledge of the space of pure awareness of yourself. But remember the point of this chapter. Direct knowledge of the unsubstantiality of the world. As the mind tunes up and gets thinner and thinner, the world itself starts to become, I call it transparent. It's like you could almost stick your hand right through. The mind stops all together. Personal sense of self and the phenomenal world are linked. Then when the thoughting returns, the mind is permanently changed. And he uses a word nirvana, one the Buddhists use a lot, but the Hindus used it before the Buddhists. And it literally means blown out. It's not a place. I'm going to Nirvana. It's next to Emeryville. No. It's not some place in the sky. You know, you see paintings of, you know, clouds and Buddhas on top of it. No, it's not a place. The metaphor is this, like a candle or a lamp. There's a flame. That's my personal sense of self. Burning, burning, burning. I think that personal self is an entity, just like when I look at a candle flame in a still room. It looks like it's a solid thing. Take a photo of it. There's a flame, like it's a thing. But we know a flame is an event. It's dynamic. So is that personal sense of self. So is the perception of the world. And when all the fuel is gone, or with knowledge, there's no person there. No agendas anymore. Wonderful word. Next verse.
Vicharitam alam shastram chiramudgahitam mithah satyatvasana maunadrite nastu tattvam satyatvasana nam maunadrite nasyuktamam padam. A steady and concentrated study of the scriptures and discussion on the truth with the teacher and other learned persons leads to the conviction that the calm of deep reflection born of the disappearance of the last vestiges of desires and passions is the highest state.
Yes. So again, the process. First, we develop the desire. Oh, Guruji, I'm being roasted in the infernal fires of change. I'm being tossed around. I am burnt within and without. Give me just a nectarine glance from your eye, which cools my breast. It's the kind of language Shankara talks about. Want it. I really want to be free. Settle down, kid. Now we'll teach you how to inquire, what you need to do, what it is you need to know. And then we're convinced of it. Shravana, Mananam, thinking about it. Yasana, long, continuous meditation. Until we have direct experience of Paroksha. This is the process of Vedantic sadhana, jnana yoga. All right, one more.
Ikshipyati kadachithi karmana bhogadayani puna samahita sasyat tadaivabhyasa patavat. If sometimes, owing to actions performed in previous births, the mind of a reflective man is distracted by desire, then it may be brought back to a peaceful state by the constant practice of spiritual meditations.
Yes. So if the mind extroverts because of prarabdha, karmas from the past, no blame. Sometimes it's so strong we act out, no blame. When you can, bring it back. Steady and continuous contemplation on the nature of the self. And fundamental dream-like nature of the world. I always like to say we are healed more by what we turn to rather than by what we turn from. Don't worry too much about the world. Instead, remember yourself. Revel in the self. Truly love the self. That, to me, is the way to pull the mind. All right, it's a good place to stop tonight. What verse are we on for next week?
67.
We must be getting close to the end of the chapter, are we?
Yeah, there's 3 more.
Well, we'll pick them up next week and we'll start. The next chapter is quite short, chapter 5. It's basically a series of footnotes. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.